Welcome to the Chronicles of Lost Relations. Before we dive into today's tale, we want to share that a friend of ours has launched a YouTube channel where he has taken on the narrative of a sniper's battle for survival and presented a unique interpretation of the story. Kindly visit his channel. You'll find the link in the description box. So, make your way over there and lend a hand with a like and a subscribe. Let's dive into the tale we have for today. A message arrived informing me that my wife, Charlotte, had secured a table at a restaurant for Valentine's Day. It caught me off guard, as I typically manage these matters annually. Yet, as the evening approached, the only communication I got was a note indicating she needed to stay late at work. Shortly thereafter, I stumbled upon a message from her coworker, Matthew, on WhatsApp that stated, "Only a loving sister understands how to pamper someone. An elegant dining establishment, a kind individual. This evening's cake had a delightful sweetness, yet pales in comparison to the sweetness of your lips." The image captured a tender moment between him and Charlotte, adorned with the necklace I gifted her earlier that day. On the table sat the wine I had bestowed upon her. The restaurant in the photo struck a familiar chord, the very place where Charlotte and I created countless cherished memories, including the moment I proposed to her. Previously, I would have faced Charlotte head-on, but this time, I simply felt drained. As Charlotte walked through the door, I was indulging in a mango, a fruit that she has an allergy to. For years, we've steered clear of mango in our home due to her allergy. Charlotte appeared taken aback to find me still awake and nonchalantly offered me the gift she had thoughtfully prepared, a Patek Philippe timepiece. She exclaimed, "Happy Valentine's Day, darling." She was a devoted partner, embodying both generosity and care. This year, the message I received from the restaurant owner truly took me by surprise. He had been acquainted with us since our college days, playfully remarking on his single status while offering his congratulations. He subsequently brought up a new cake and inquired if I was interested in tasting it. I inquired about the presence of mango, and he assured me it was not included. Thus, I consented. Shortly thereafter, Charlotte reached out to inform me that she had to put in extra hours at work and wouldn't be able to join me for the evening. That night, restless and wide awake, I found myself scrolling through my phone and stumbled upon Matthew's post. The image captured a moment of him and Charlotte at the restaurant, featuring the wine and the necklace I gifted her in the frame. The cake was composed of layers infused with mango puree, a treat that was off-limits for Charlotte. Exhaustion held me back from facing her, and I had no desire to engage in another argument. I didn't even mention Matthew's post. I just found myself craving mango. I placed an order for delivery and found great pleasure in it, a rare treat I hadn't indulged in for years due to Charlotte's allergy. Once I had finished the mango, I declared, "I'm heading to bed now unless there's anything else." Charlotte, her eyes wide with astonishment, seized my arm and exclaimed, "Nathan, it's Valentine's Day?" I gazed at her, perplexed, and inquired, "So what now?" Her frown deepened as she stepped closer to me. With a playful lilt, she leaned in close and murmured in my ear, "On a night like this, are you truly heading off to bed so soon?" Charlotte had always exuded a chilling, remote charm. Upon completing her studies, her spectacles enhanced her scholarly allure, contributing to an air of aloofness that surrounded her. Yet this evening, I detected a subtle whiff of smoke lingering around her. I took a step back, evading her kiss, and said, "I just had mango. You might have an allergic reaction." I entered the bedroom, secured the door, and reclined on the bed. The sound of my phone ringing pierced the silence. My supervisor inquired whether I had truly made up my mind about accepting the position. "If you bail on me again because of Charlotte, I swear I'll make you regret it," she said. I let out a laugh and said, "I won't back down this time. If I do, I'll approach you," my head bowed low. The role in the advertising department promised a better salary, yet it demanded frequent travel, something I had declined 3 years prior due to Charlotte. She has always embraced traditional values, and I understood that she wouldn't cope well with the uncertainty of our limited time together throughout the year. It took me more than 6 months to finally hold her hand for the first time. During my middle and high school years, my close friends frequently considered Charlotte to be dull. They failed to grasp the reasons behind my affection for her. I would smile and share that she quite literally saved my life. It occurred during my middle school years when an earthquake hit our school. Panic surged through the crowd as everyone rushed outside, but I found myself at the forefront. I stumbled over a desk leg and went down, yet Charlotte navigated through the turmoil, determined to reach me despite the obstacles in her path. She took the lead, staying near as we made our way out together. Later, I inquired, what was on your mind? Wouldn't it feel like all your aspirations and efforts had been in vain if you were to pass away? Charlotte appeared surprised by the inquiry, yet she replied, I wasn't considering it deeply. In that instant, I felt that if I couldn't succeed, I'd prefer to perish alongside you. That was Charlotte, forever prioritizing others over her own needs. Yet now I find myself questioning whether she ever envisioned a day when she would choose someone else over me. I have always believed in her honesty, yet honesty can diminish as time passes. My supervisor likely picked up on the subtle shift in my voice. She remarked that everyone errs at times. It's simpler to point fingers at the past than to mend it. Nathan, may you always possess the bravery to make changes when needed. Then, with a touch of irony, she remarked, naturally, someone as flawless as I am never errs, but for someone like you, who isn't perfect, it's quite understandable. Regardless of the circumstances, even if you part ways with her, ensure that you hold onto your position. In just 3 days, you'll be embarking on a business trip to Argentina. This requires your full commitment. The following morning, I rose early to make my way to the office and finalize my ongoing tasks. Charlotte sat in the living room, her lips swollen, a likely consequence of the mango allergy that flared up after Matthew kissed her following their night out. I moved past her, making my way to the door, yet she seized my wrist. With a hint of defensiveness, she inquired, Why are you upset? Is it due to my absence yesterday that you're feeling this way? I mentioned that I needed to put in some extra hours. The company is going public, and as a woman, do you understand the challenges I've faced in reaching management? Countless gazes are fixed upon me. How could I possibly refrain from setting an example? You always claimed you would stand by my career, so why are you behaving this way now? For all these years, I've endured her frosty, aloof attitude. Even during those times when she was too occupied to realize I was in the hospital, or when I couldn't get in touch with her, I remained silent. One day, I arrived to pick her up from work, and as she applied her makeup, her phone suddenly rang. She answered it promptly, her voice warm as she spoke to someone, and it was the first time I heard her mention Matthew. That was the moment I understood she had time for a phone call after all. She simply didn't believe I was deserving of that part of her life. I stepped back from her and declared, That's enough, Charlotte, it's over. Just as I was about to wrap up, her phone buzzed once more. She cast a quick look at the screen, then offered me a sheepish glance before responding. It was indeed Matthew. Sis, could you come and get me, please? The chill in the air today makes it hard to muster the motivation to leave the warmth of my bed. If you don't arrive, I'll be delayed and won't receive my payment. Charlotte's expression softened instinctively as she replied, You're afraid of the cold? The very same individual who ascends icy peaks under the cover of darkness? Okay, Matthew, it's time to rise and shine. Are you bringing me breakfast today? A bitter laugh escaped me. Matthew, feeling that something was amiss, remarked, By the way, please extend my thanks to Nathan. Yesterday, I dined at his restaurant and also enlisted the help of one of his staff members. I will ensure that he receives a wonderful gift down the line. Upon hearing Matthew's words, Charlotte cast a fleeting, guilty glance my way before swiftly averting her gaze. She instinctively turned down the volume on her phone. The sheer ridiculousness of the situation made me chuckle uncontrollably. I shook my head and turned away, ready to depart. However, Charlotte swiftly dismissed Matthew's call and hurried to catch up with me. Matthew found himself in a bit of a bind with a client dinner, having overlooked the restaurant booking. I stepped in and offered him our reservation. It's all about the business, you get what I mean, don't you? She likely had no idea how ridiculous that came across. Charlotte still had more to say. Later, when I asked her to prepare some porridge for me since I was feeling unwell, she donned her coat and remarked, Matthew has no food at home. I planned to prepare a meal for him. I hesitated, caught between the urge to inquire about her connection with Matthew and the curiosity about why she was preparing a meal for someone else. Yet, she never afforded me the opportunity. She rushed out, completely oblivious to my presence, curled up on the couch, feeling unwell. It felt like a completely different world compared to high school. In those days, any hint of stress or a missed meal would earn me a frosty reprimand from Charlotte. Yet, in the midst of a crisis, she would effortlessly produce a steaming bowl of rice cakes, insisting, "Eat up, you'll only feel worse if I don't look after you." Upon my arrival at the office, my supervisor unceremoniously dropped a mountain of paperwork on my desk, instructing me to manage it all within 3 days or face the consequences. I toiled into the late hours, and upon glancing at my phone, I discovered a draft of the divorce papers sent by the lawyer. Amidst the swirling snowstorm, I hailed a cab that whisked me directly to Charlotte's office building. However, upon arriving at her floor, the lights suddenly flickered and went dark. I scowled and activated the flashlight on my phone. In that instant, a message from a colleague arrived, accompanied by a link. His tone carried a sense of uncertainty. "Isn't this the ultimate heavy metal concert you've been dreaming of attending?" Perplexed, I followed the link. I found myself drawn to a poster on Matthew's account, capturing all of his shared moments with Charlotte. He had been acquainted with her since their high school days, pursued her to college, and now found himself employed at her company. His bio stated, "Falling deeply for her isn't merely your right." I pressed play on the video and quickly grasped the reason behind my colleague's reluctance to share it. In the video, the concert lights danced across Matthew and Charlotte's faces. Amidst the bustling crowd, they intertwined their fingers and shared a fervent kiss. My phone slipped from my grasp and shattered against the floor, a surge of fury swelling within me. Charlotte and I had shared a bond for the majority of our lives, nearly our whole existence. Still, in spite of everything, I sensed that I hadn't truly grasped her essence. From her office, I caught the faint sound of quiet sobs. Charlotte gasped, "I'm sorry, but we truly can't." A male voice replied, I just like you. What'd I do wrong?" The young lad encircled her waist, tenderly caressing her face marked by tears. Matthew pressed his lips gently against Charlotte's cheek, a profound sorrow reflected in his gaze. I observed his hand move from her waist to the nape of her neck. In the shadows, they exchanged a deep, enduring kiss. Bang! With a surge of energy, the lights burst back to life, illuminating every corner of the room. At last, they became aware of my presence by the door. Matthew hurriedly exclaimed, "Nathan, it's not what it seems. My feelings for her are overwhelming. It's not Charlotte's fault at all." Charlotte appeared bewildered when she caught sight of me. Her lips were gently parted, shimmering with a hint of moisture. "Nathan, what brings you here?" she inquired. I regarded her with a serene expression before making my way to Matthew, a smile gracing my lips. In an instant, my fist collided with his face. Before he could even descend, I seized him by the collar, yanked him nearer, and shot him a fierce glare. "This strike is aimed at your pitiful visage. I've encountered many pretentious women, but until now, I had never come across a male one. It truly disgusts me." He attempted to make his case, but in a heartbeat, I delivered a powerful right hook to his stomach, the impact causing him to bend over in agony and fall to the ground. Charlotte emerged from her reverie, on the verge of uttering a word, when I struck her sharply across the face. She grasped her cheek, her eyes brimming with tears. Her expression revealed a deep sense of pain. I removed my wedding ring with a chill in my heart and flung it at her, as if it were nothing more than refuse. As the realization washed over her, she succumbed to her emotions, tears cascading down her flushed cheeks. "Nathan, please reconsider this course of action. I kindly ask you to hear me out." I interrupted her, presenting the printed divorce papers. "Charlotte, I have to tell you that we are ending our marriage." Charlotte cast aside all sense of decorum and pursued me down the stairs from the office. "Nathan, I urge you to hear me out. It's not as you might imagine." Half the building was observing, feeling a sense of embarrassment. I hailed a cab, prepared to depart. As the snowflakes danced around us, Charlotte leaned into the car door, refusing to let me shut it. Her expression was nearly desperate as she stated, "There's truly nothing between us. He's merely a child. He lacks the understanding." I scoffed. "He hasn't matured yet." "Oh, so you're giving him a little pre-kiss lesson, are you?" My tone lacked variation. She gazed at me, her eyes glistening with a deep sorrow, as if fixated on a vessel lost to the horizon, never to return. She gasped, "Don't look at me like that, Nathan. Kindly refrain from regarding me in that manner. Our journey together has spanned more than a decade. Your absence is unbearable for me. Matthew was merely a coincidence." Her voice diminished gradually, fading into a whisper. Yet, a voice emerged from behind her. "Charlotte, Matthew has ascended to the rooftop. Hurry up." She instinctively released her grip and pivoted. I scoffed and forcefully closed the car door behind me. In the reflection of the rearview mirror, I caught sight of Charlotte trailing a few steps behind me. Yet, in a sudden shift, she halted, pivoting to dash back into the structure. I shut my eyes. As the fury faded away, the sharp ache in my chest made its presence known. The driver cast a fleeting look at me via the rearview mirror. His voice carried a deep sense of worry. "Hello there, young one. Are you okay?" I brushed my face, averted my gaze, and chose to stay quiet. Upon returning home, I began to gather my possessions. Shortly thereafter, I received calls from both Charlotte's parents and my own. I reflected with a tinge of resentment. Charlotte certainly has a lot on her plate. She must soothe Matthew from his reckless impulse to leap from the building. Yet she find a moment to notify both sets of parents to step in as mediators. Charlotte and I had shared a journey for more than a decade. Our connection was more intricate and challenging to break than that of most couples. Ultimately, all my parents expressed was, "Son, your happiness is what matters most, and we encourage you to make choices that reflect that." After I completed the task of packing my belongings, I turned the doorknob and stepped outside, only to discover Charlotte standing there, her expression heavy with despair. Charlotte appeared like a young one caught in a misstep, quivering as she extended her hand toward me. "Nathan, I kindly ask you to stay. Allow me to clarify all the details." I gazed at her in silence, and then she crumbled. "I implore you, go ahead, I'm ready. Reprimand me. Feel free to do as you please. Please don't give me that look. Do not regard me in such a manner." She pushed down on my suitcase, fervently attempting to prevent my departure. "Nathan, we vowed to journey through the years side by side. Our parents are looking forward to our return to Beijing for the new year. Do not abandon me at this moment. Mom and Dad are really missing you a lot." I let out a heavy sigh as I gazed at her. "What is it that you seek, Charlotte?" She almost fell to her knees, clinging to my leg, her tears soaking into my clothes. She wept bitterly, begging for mercy. I kindly asked for another opportunity. "I assure you that I will improve." I took my time before responding to her. Instead, my eyes were drawn to the aged college graduation photo that had tumbled out during my packing process. Upon closer inspection, a realization dawned on me. In the photograph, it wasn't solely Charlotte and I. Matthew stood quietly in the background, sheltered by the tree, his eyes fixed on Charlotte. Charlotte's gaze was elsewhere. They descended upon him. It seems it began that early, didn't it? I believe those moments were solely ours, shared only between Charlotte and me. Yet it turns out there was another presence all along. Charlotte quivered, her gaze averted from mine, reminiscent of a wrongdoer bracing for retribution. To her surprise, I indeed spoke softly. She gazed upward, her eyes shimmering with a mix of astonishment and optimism. "Is that so, Nathan? Would you consider beginning anew with me?" After a brief moment of contemplation, I nodded and unexpectedly said, "Certainly, but there's one stipulation." I took a moment, my tone unwavering. "Do you recall our plans for that island getaway during our high school days? Throughout all these years, we never made the trip. I'm envisioning a 5-day getaway to the islands." Charlotte instantly consented, leaping into my embrace and whispering, "Is it really that straightforward?" I nodded, but deep inside, I understood she wouldn't be able to see it through. Upon reflection, Charlotte's allure towards Matthew seemed less unexpected than I initially believed. Her existence had consistently been meticulously organized, governed by the dictates of her family's expectations. From Beijing to the capital, through her education and marriage, and even including me as her childhood sweetheart, her future had consistently unfolded like a well-trodden path, serene and expected. Yet, when existence becomes overly predictable for an extended period, it's only human to crave a bit of thrill. Matthew was the thrill of excitement she longed for. He was defiant, daring. He would lead her on moonlit treks through snow-blanketed peaks, keep her awake through the rhythm of concerts, and share tender kisses as dawn broke over the ocean. Regardless of how composed an individual may be, it's nearly impossible to remain unaffected by such fervent enthusiasm. Charlotte assured me that once our vacation was over, she would be there with me each day, ensuring I never grew weary of her presence. It felt like she was worried I could reconsider my decision. She eagerly assumed responsibility for coordinating every aspect of the journey to the islands, her enthusiasm palpable as we prepared to embark on the adventure we had envisioned for so long. As I navigated through social media, a sense of apathy washed over me. Matthew shared his thoughts incessantly, almost putting himself through a trial by exposing his emotions for Charlotte. I observed with detachment. Today, he finally let loose and shared something straightforward. The one she holds dear is me. I found myself chuckling and decided to share a post of my own in response. Starting now, my wife and I will be residing on the islands. The past lies behind us, dissipated like wisps of smoke. Today marks the start of something fresh. I simply wish to grasp her hand from this moment forward. Matthew, bursting with enthusiasm, sought to arrange a meeting. We met at a cafe, and he asked through gritted teeth, "After everything, you're still going to forgive her? Are you truly going to remain with her?" I offered a smile, remaining silent in reply. He exclaimed, "You're really leaving? Are you truly relocating to the islands?" What could be the reason for her silence towards me? He interjected with exasperation. I placed the visa my supervisor had hurriedly arranged for me onto the table. With a hint of humor, I remarked that Charlotte and I have been together for more than a decade. She pleaded for another opportunity, and I responded that if she could abandon everything and accompany me, I would grant her forgiveness. Without a doubt, she consented. I smiled, yet my eyes remained devoid of warmth. Matthew, now seething with anger, declared that's impossible. I have put in a great deal for her. She expressed her love for me. His fury was unmistakable, yet I could sense the deep hurt woven into his words. I gazed at him with an icy demeanor. On Valentine's Day, Matthew claimed Charlotte for himself, sent me a message to disclose their relationship, and allowed me to witness their kiss, all in an attempt to persuade me to abandon her. What he failed to grasp was that my position in Charlotte's heart was more profound than he ever comprehended. His schemes had unraveled. Furious, Matthew charged toward me. But what could someone of his stature possibly accomplish? I swiftly cut him off, doused him with my coffee, and before he could respond, I struck him with enough force to send him tumbling to the floor. I lowered myself and seized his hair, compelling him to lock eyes with me. With a grin, I mocked him, utterly pitiful. "Do you truly believe that Charlotte has feelings for you? Unfortunate for you. Did you really think she loves you?" His expression, brimming with irritation and bitterness, compelled me to suppress the nausea rising within me. I reiterated one final time that should Charlotte decide to leave with me, I would grant her forgiveness and we could begin anew. However, if she failed to do so, my forgiveness would be forever out of reach. His expression changed, and I could tell that he grasped the situation. At the airport, Charlotte nervously glanced at her phone, her lips sealed firmly. "Nathan, this moment holds a unique significance. Matthew has been involved in a car accident. This situation is quite grave. Is it possible to delay the trip?" I quietly observed her, my eyes following the delicate lines of her features. Then, I said, "I understand why you chose not to attend that concert with me." Charlotte stood still, her lips quivering, attempting to form a smile, but unable to do so. On that particular evening, the celebration was for Matthew's birthday. I received an invitation from him. I found it impossible to refuse him. I chuckled with a hint of bitterness. That band was my absolute favorite, Charlotte. I've been saying this since my teenage years. On my birthday, you continuously inquired about my wish. I expressed my desire for sufficient funds to experience their performance in person. You became upset, questioning why my desire didn't encompass bringing you along. I took a moment, reflecting. My wish at 18 was to experience that concert alongside you. Do you not recall? However, I ventured there by myself. I was unaware that my wife was among the crowd, sharing a kiss with someone else. I took the time to send her a message during the concert, gently reminding her to eat. Yet, there was no response from her. Charlotte felt a surge of anxiety, her voice escalating as if she were trying to justify herself. Opportunities will arise again. I interrupted her, my tone unwavering. There will not be. That marked their final performance. This is the only one of its kind. I gazed into her eyes and reiterated, there won't be another one. We lingered in quietude for a brief instant, and then, unexpectedly, I eased my tension, gesturing her away. Proceed. He has been involved in an accident, and you hold the position of a supervisor. It would reflect poorly on you if you chose not to attend. Regarding the islands, I smiled, locking eyes with her, sensing the presence of the girl who, at 18, had sulked and demanded we visit the islands. I mentioned that we could just go next time. Charlotte, appearing as though she had been granted a second chance, dashed out of the airport amidst the swirling snow and rain, eager to reach Matthew. I ripped the plane ticket in my grasp and discarded the fragments into the bin. Subsequently, I printed a fresh ticket bound for Argentina. As Charlotte stirred from her slumber, she discovered herself nestled in the embrace of a man. The man was softly pressing his lips against her face. A sense of unease lingered in the air. Her eyes widened in surprise. This was not Nathan. Yesterday, she hurried to the hospital, only to discover that Matthew's car accident was a fabrication. Initially, she felt a surge of anger, but then Matthew, with tears in his eyes, called out, "Charlotte, for countless years, my love for you has endured. Once more, just one final time. Could you possibly remain by my side, just one more time?" A whisper within her compelled her to depart. Nathan is likely seething at this point. They had shared a bond since their early years, navigating life side by side, and had been united in marriage for 7 years. All had appeared flawless. She found herself unable to part ways with Nathan, yet Matthew's eyes, tinged with red, and his tender caress as he brushed her cheek, lingered in her mind. How could she possibly reject him? Charlotte was abruptly overcome by a heavy sensation, as if an ominous warning loomed ahead. As the moment approaches when something significant slips away, an unmistakable sensation washes over you. A visceral fear, akin to plummeting from a great height in a nightmare. She couldn't shake the image of Nathan's expression as he waved goodbye to her at the airport yesterday. It was a blend of wistfulness and determination. It felt as though he was bidding farewell. She sprang from her bed to snatch her phone. However, Matthew, in a state of confusion, inquired about Charlotte. What seems to be the issue? Her phone had run out of battery. Her heart raced as she stared at the dark screen, urging it to power up more quickly. The look on her face took Matthew by surprise. At last, the device sprang to life, and an incoming call interrupted the silence. It was her mother, raising her voice at her. Charlotte paused, her mind racing to grasp the unfolding situation. Nathan compiled proof of her relationship with Matthew and crafted a PowerPoint presentation, complete with supporting documents, which he distributed to all their family, friends, and colleagues. The concluding slide bore Nathan's signature flair, featuring a digitally altered image of her and Matthew's wedding alongside a handwritten message that stated, "Let's extend our wishes for this duo of deceivers to enjoy a lifetime devoid of children and filled with endless joy." After hanging up, she opened her messages. Charlotte drove with abandon, ignoring red lights, her thoughts entirely occupied by Nathan. The frigid winter conditions rendered the roads perilous, causing her to skid multiple times, each instance a close call with disaster. In the midst of peril, her thoughts were consumed solely by the urgency of getting home and locating Nathan. He had consistently shown such forgiveness and a gentle spirit. She clung to the hope that, even at this moment, there remained an opportunity to mend it all. The pressing nature of the circumstances hung heavily upon her. Yet upon her return home, she discovered the house devoid of life. Nathan had gathered almost all his belongings and departed. She remembered the playful comment she had made while they were getting ready for their island getaway, jesting that they wouldn't be away for long. Nathan offered a quiet smile, choosing to remain silent. A heavy truth weighed upon her heart. He had been contemplating his departure for quite a while. She would not concede to it. They had shared the majority of their lives in each other's company. She felt an undeniable connection to him, convinced that his feelings mirrored her own. If she could only express her remorse genuinely and rectify the situation, he would undoubtedly extend his forgiveness, just as he had done in the past. However, when she arrived at his office, his supervisor dismissively ordered security to remove her. Even when she succeeded in reaching out to one of Nathan's colleagues, she encountered a palpable sense of disdain. As the days went by, her quest for him continued, only to uncover that Nathan had embarked on a new career path, now journeying endlessly with no fixed date for his return. His absence felt deliberate, a gradual distancing she had not anticipated. As she perused their old messages, she noticed the growing distance between them, where once playful emojis now lay dormant, overshadowed by silence of unanswered texts. His social media posts now lacked any mention of their shared life. Just a quote that asked, "When did you choose to end things?" When you came to understand that your future would be a constant struggle for breath, each day feeling like a heavy weight pressing down. Upon completing my business, I chose to dedicate some time to discovering the wonders of Argentina. The nation, situated 22,000 kilometers from home, was immersed in the warmth of summer, with sunlight draping a golden hue over the landscape. In Buenos Aires, tango dancers spun gracefully through the streets, where the atmosphere blended European allure with vibrant Latin fervor. A business associate extended an invitation to Mendoza, where the vineyards unfurled beneath the warm summer sun, resembling a lush green ocean of vines. While I savored a glass of Malbec, Charlotte's call interrupted my thoughts. Her voice was raspy as she inquired, "Nathan, where are you?" I took a moment, savoring a sip of wine before responding, "On the other side of the world. What is it that you desire? Please forward the signed divorce papers to my office at your earliest convenience. If that's the case, please refrain from calling." She fell quiet, and just when I was ready to end the call, she unexpectedly spoke up, saying, "I'm sorry." Her sobs enveloped me, steeped in despair and anguish, reminiscent of a child wandering alone in a bustling marketplace. I apologized, Nathan. I humbly ask for your forgiveness. Guide me, and I will follow your lead without hesitation. 2 decades. We have shared more than 2 decades together. Is it truly possible to simply release it? How can you be so unfeeling? I smiled quietly, and she must have sensed it, for her sobbing ceased. In a state of distress, she inquired of Nathan, "What is the reason for your laughter?" I let out a breath, glancing down as I said, "You're always like this, forever confident in my love for you. I'm confident that if you reveal your suffering, I'll empathize with you. But Charlotte, have you ever considered that my feelings have changed? I no longer love you." The next time I found myself back in my hometown, it was New Year's Eve. The challenge with childhood sweethearts lies in their deep familiarity with one another. As my family convened for the reunion dinner, a knock echoed at the door. I opened the door to see Charlotte standing there, her appearance disheveled, noticeably thinner than I remembered, her hair a tangled mess, and her face etched with the marks of distress. She appeared worn down and vulnerable. The PowerPoint I crafted had tarnished both her and Matthew's standing in their social circles. It felt like a triumph of fairness. Charlotte found herself in a downward spiral, and the support she once had began to fade as those around her became disillusioned by the reality of her situation. I caught wind of some of the chatter at dinner. I haven't had a word with her since our last phone call. The streets buzzed with the inviting warmth of homes, while distant fireworks painted the sky with bursts of color. Charlotte gazed at me, her expression a canvas of despair, yet a flicker of hope still danced in her eyes. She found it difficult to articulate her thoughts, her speech wavering. Each year, we have consistently celebrated New Year's Eve side by side. Nathan, my affection for you knows no bounds. Your absence is something I simply cannot endure. I gazed at her, and in an instant, recollections of her younger self flooded my mind. On New Year's Eve, she quietly slipped out, her cheeks aglow, just to give me a red string bracelet she had crafted with her own hands. I anticipated that encountering her once more would bring anguish. Yet surprisingly, I experienced emptiness instead. In recent months, my journeys around the globe and the discovery of new destinations have enriched me in ways I never expected. The crackle of fireworks filled the night sky, marking the year's conclusion as the harsh grip of winter began to loosen at last. A fresh year was unfolding. I turned to Charlotte and said, "Charlotte, please don't go down this path. It is the dawn of a new year. Your current state is truly unsettling to witness." Her face drained of color, and without uttering a single word, I closed the door. As my parents inquired about the identity of the visitor, I merely shook my head in response. Absolutely no one. Upon my return to the cozy embrace of the family dinner, I found myself in a playful struggle for the final piece of beef in the bubbling hot pot, enveloped by laughter and the joyous spirit of the occasion. It was flawless. I still had my loved ones. Under the supposed brilliance of my supervisor's guidance, my career flourished. I swiftly embraced the lifestyle of perpetual exploration, dispatching postcards from every new destination I encountered. My mom, embracing some online lingo, now refers to me as her travel frog. In this moment, I found myself in Japan, strolling towards a vibrant fireworks festival, savoring the delightful taste of mango bread. My mother, always concerned, reached out and said, "Son, take care. I've come across information suggesting that Japan experiences numerous earthquakes." I offered her a warm smile and words of reassurance. Seismic events are relatively rare occurrences. As fate would have it, Japan's meteorological agency released an extraordinary earthquake warning for the Nankai Trough. All flights back home were completely booked, leaving me out of touch for a bit. My mother, in a state of panic, began to pray fervently and lit incense at the stroke of midnight, all for my protection. In the meantime, Charlotte, upon receiving the news, promptly booked a flight to Japan. At that moment, Matthew remained by her side, despite having lost his job and facing a blacklist. They found themselves ensnared in a harmful relationship, struggling to escape its grasp. Matthew pleaded with her, urging her not to act foolishly. "Regardless of your departure, Nathan will not offer you forgiveness. Do you not understand?" Yet Charlotte remained unheeding. In the heat of their conflict, she seized a kettle and brought it crashing down upon Matthew's head. Crimson streamed from his brow as he cried out, "He doesn't love you. Do you not understand? I am the sole person who holds love for you." Without uttering a single word, Charlotte turned and walked away, leaving him in her wake. After a delayed flight, I have finally returned to my homeland. Right before we were set to take off, my malfunctioning phone buzzed with a call from an unfamiliar number. Yet the attendant insisted I switch it off. The call faded from my thoughts. Upon arriving home, I comforted my family and promptly returned to my tasks. That was the moment everything changed as Matthew stood outside my office building. He had lost the assurance he once carried, now appearing with red-rimmed eyes and a disordered appearance. "Where's Charlotte?" "Return my Charlotte," he insisted. I gazed at him through the glass door, a frown forming as I pondered how he had fallen into such disarray. Charlotte had reached Japan prior to the earthquake, and now everything fell into place. I recalled the unusual call from earlier, yet I maintained my composure and had security escort Matthew out. I expressed to him that it didn't matter to me. "She belongs to you now, not to me." The unfortunate news arrived from Charlotte's parents, who ultimately conveyed it to my family. Charlotte had tracked me down to the inn where I was staying, but when she attempted to contact me, all she encountered was a busy signal. She thought I was deliberately overlooking her. She found me, and that was the moment the building came crashing down. My mother, burdened by grief, shared the news with me. Charlotte did not make it through the collapse. She felt utterly defeated, her legs broken beyond repair. The possibility of her walking again remained shrouded in uncertainty. My mom tentatively inquired, "Son, are you planning to visit her?" I shook my head and said no. Charlotte and I no longer share any connection. After ending the call, I gazed out at the view of yet another unfamiliar land. What exquisite charm lay before me in this place. I was filled with anticipation to witness it. What about the past? What transpired yesterday fades into the past, while the happenings of today emerge with fresh potential. I wish for everyone to muster the bravery to turn things around and begin anew. Dear audience, we invite you to share your insights in the comments section below. Also, remember to like, share, and subscribe.